What up, Vibers? Welcome back to another episode of the Vibe with Kai podcast. I am buzzing for all of you to hear this conversation today because we are getting into the nitty gritty of the thing that runs our entire lives. Our brain. On this show, we talk a lot about mental health. We talk a lot about it anxiety, ADHD, depression. But my guest today, Dr. Stephen Storage, he flips the script completely. He argues that we shouldn't just be looking at mental health, we need to be looking at brain health. I love this. And honestly, it makes so much sense. Dr. Stephen Storage is a child and adult psychiatrist at the world famous Amen clinics. You've probably seen their work with brain scans because they look at the actual organ to see what's going on. Dr. Stephen is a diplomat of the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology, and he is passionate about helping people realize that they are not stuck with the brain that they have. In this episode, we get into the hardware versus software of your mind, and we talk about what ADHD actually looks like on a brain scan. Spoiler alert, it involves the sleepy prefrontal cortex. And we even get into some tough love about alcohol and brain toxicity. If you've ever felt that your brain is working against you, this episode is the manual that you've been looking for. Now, before we dive in, do me a huge favor. Make sure you are subscribed to this podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you have a second, please leave a review. It helps us reach more people in this community. You can also follow me at The Vibe with Kai on all social media or visit my website at thevibewithkai.com. And hey, if you want to take action on your own brain health, check out my digital store for my ADHD guidebooks and lectures. Or if you want exclusive deep dives and strategies that I don't post anywhere else, come join me and the family over on Patreon. It's only $5 a month, and all of those links are in the description. All right, enough from me. Let's get into the hardware of the brain. Here is my conversation with the amazing Dr. Stephen Storage. I want to welcome our guest, Dr. Stephen Storage, to the podcast. What's up, doctor? How are you?
Thank you so much for having me, Kai. It's been a
Yeah,
long time
man.
in the making.
I know.
My ADHD combined with yours, I think we had to reschedule this baby a couple of times, but
I
here
know.
it is. Here we are.
Here we are. You know what's really funny? I was saying this to another person I was interviewing because like most of the guests that I have are either have ADHD or are experts surrounding ADHD, and trying to schedule two ADHD people trying to schedule a podcast episode about ADHD, it's like next to impossible. So I hope you're in good company because like it's not uncommon. It's totally
Hey,
fine.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I guess I get to fall into the category of someone with ADHD who also is an expert in ADHD. So there
Yeah,
we go.
man.
Like, let's see how this goes.
Absolutely. And I rely on people like you to share this knowledge and this insight because for context, like I'm still new to this. I'm 38. I was diagnosed at 35.
Mhm.
And after I was diagnosed, like I went into the diagnosis not even truly even knowing what ADHD was.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like whenever I heard ADHD, I always thought it was just like little boys that can't sit still. Like that
Right.
was it. And so when the idea of ADHD popped up, from my doctor, I was like, what are you talking about? I don't have ADHD. I can sit still fine. Like, what are you talking about? Right. And then I started to learn more, and it took a couple years to realize that some of the things that I was struggling with my entire life kind of stems back to ADHD. So we're definitely going to talk about that. But before we get into like the science aspect of it, I want to hear your story. What pulled you into this focus? Why focus on the things that you're focusing on every day?
Oh, great question. So I stumbled upon psychiatry kind of accidentally, right? So I went to med
Okay.
school thinking, that maybe I would do emergency medicine, maybe surgery. Wasn't quite sure. I had my psychiatry rotation, fell in love with the idea that you get to connect with people on that deep
Mm-hmm.
level, right? You get to understand someone as a human. The brain itself, so mysterious. There's more
Yeah.
connections in the human brain than stars in the universe. All of that is what pulled me in. And early on in my career, I worked at USC, University of Southern California, on faculty there, and enjoyed it. But the issue that I stumbled across is that psychiatry as an institution, it's good enough that it survives, but it's not good enough for us to be super excited and proud of it. And
Mm,
the reason I say that is most diagnoses nowadays are made just by symptom checklists. And that can work sometimes, but the issue is it doesn't work all the time
right.
because a label does not always fit with just a certain number of things on a checklist. So the reason I ended up joining Amen clinics about 4 years ago is this idea that mental health is brain health, right? Like
Mhm.
the way we think, the way we feel, it all
You think that would go without saying, right?
you would
You
think.
would think.
And yet, in medicine, psychiatry is the only field that doesn't routinely look at the organ that they're treating. If you, I mean, really think
Mhm.
about that, right?
That's
Cardiology.
true. I never thought of it that way. That's true, yeah.
And so when you make that link, right, mental health is brain health, and you actually take the time to look at the brain as part of an assessment, you open the door for so much. And things like there's not just a couple types of ADHD, there's 7 types based on the neuroimaging work that we've done. I could go
Mhm.
into it and we will, I'm sure,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, but that's really ultimately what has brought me to where I am today. It's this idea that mental health is brain health and we're not stuck with the
Right,
brain we have. We can optimize it, right? We can lean
right,
into our strengths and figure things out.
right.
So much,
Yeah,
so much hope for people out there, and that, and a label like doesn't help you recognize just how much hope
right.
there is.
Right, right. I wanna go in a little bit more about the Amen clinics because I know you just touched upon this, but I would love for you to go into even a little bit more detail about what you do because there, like you said, there is a difference between I guess traditional psychiatry and the approach that Amen clinics kind of takes. Can you explain like what if somebody were to walk into your doors, like what exactly can they expect that's different from traditional?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think maybe the first thing we describe is what is the traditional model. Traditional
Mm,
model: walk into an office. You might have anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour, depending on where you are. You'll
mhm,
be asked some questions. Usually, those are tailored to a checklist of symptoms. And then, based on how many symptoms you check off, you may be given a diagnosis and then oftentimes a prescription to follow. So, the model at Amen Clinics is it's more intensive. Before a patient even comes in, we have them complete about 15 pages of paperwork where they
mhm,
really document so much detail about their past. And that's from
mhm.
pregnancy, when they were in the womb, to now. It's social history, spiritual history, everything you could think of.
Wait, like when somebody was in the womb?
Wha-
Like,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, were there any exposures as far as they know?
oh, I okay, I thought you meant like they have to recall what it was like when they're I'm like,
Well, that would be
people
pretty
can
wild, Kai. Kai, let's
I
talk
was like,
about it.
"Wait."
Kai, hold up here. Let's talk. Do you have any memories of when you were in the uterus?
I was like, I'm sitting here listening. I was like, should I remember? Because I don't remember it. I barely remember what I did last week. And like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
get it now. So
if
you're
you
talking about
don't
the
remember what
yes.
happened when you were in the uterus, you might have ADHD.
I was I did
Uh,
right. I was like for a second, I was like, wait, what? But no, I see what you're saying. So you're
yeah.
saying
Yeah. No.
like
Look.
any like medical history from like from birth
That's
and all of that.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so then, a patient, a client will complete all that paperwork. Then they'll come into the office. They'll meet with one of our patient historians for a couple hours and
Yeah.
round out all that information, type it up. So we've got this nice big document. Then they'll also do neuropsych testing on a computer. There'll be a couple different tests they do so we can get some objective information about how their brain's working. And then a very unique part of the assessment is what's called a brain SPECT scan,
Mm-hmm.
SPECT. And basically, that is a scan that is looking at blood flow in the brain, blood flow being a proxy for activity level. So if there's a part
Mm-hmm.
of the brain that's super duper active, it's going to get more blood flow. If there's a part of the brain that's sleepy, it's going to get less blood flow. If there's a part of the brain where blood flow is higher than expected, that's a hyperactive region.
Right.
Lower than expected, that's a sleepy region of the brain. And so then, after the patient does all those things, they finally meet with the psychiatrist for 2 hours, and we go through all the results in detail and then piece together a holistic plan that's, tailored to whatever it is that's going on. And we try to hit things from multiple angles. medicine can be a part of the plan if it's needed, but it's not the first thing that we're thinking
Right.
about. Yeah.
Right, right, and on top of all of this, you're also a father, right?
Yes.
You have 2 boys.
Yep.
How has being a parent influenced the way that you show up at work every day for your patients? Like, especially, do your if I may ask, do your kids, are your kids diagnosed with ADHD as well?
Not yet. One boy is 4, the other is almost 7.
Okay.
And, ADHD is highly genetic. It's about 70
Yeah,
to 90% genetic.
yeah.
I have my suspicions, but I also don't think family should diagnose family. Uh,
Mhm,
so they have not yet been diagnosed.
mhm,
But what I'll say is, I'm a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. So I see the whole
mhm.
age range. And having kids of my own, gives me such deeper appreciation and understanding for just how challenging it is to be a parent,
Right.
especially if you are a parent of a child with ADHD or if you are a parent who has ADHD themselves. It just adds another layer of complexity to parenting, which is amazing. It's so fun, but it can be really hard sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm really excited to get into the brain health basics here with you because I know like this is what you study, this is what you specialize in, and this kind of stuff fascinates me,
Yeah.
like to no end. So we hear the phrase ADHD is a brain difference, not a character flaw, right? We hear that all the time. From your perspective, what's happening in the brain
Hmm.
that makes ADHD show up the way that it does?
Yeah. Great. So I think we should have done better with choosing the name for ADHD because
Mhm.
attention deficit hyperactivity disorder sounds like a disease you don't want to catch, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and ultimately, I truly do not believe ADHD is a quote unquote disorder. That
Mhm.
does not mean it doesn't come with challenges. It does.
Right.
But I think it is a different way of being wired. And I tell people that um, because 1 out of 8 people has ADHD. Right? It's a really high number. ADHD is genetic, like I talked about, but think of this: things only get passed on through many generations if the condition provides some kind of survival advantage to the species.
Mhm.
Otherwise, over time, it would just fade away.
It just fade out, yeah. Mhm.
And when you think about ADHD in, our ancestors, the person with ADHD, in like a tribe or something, is the person who's scanning the environment, spots the saber-toothed tiger before the tiger attacks everyone.
Right.
Survival advantage, right?
Right.
Or the person who is hyper focused on a hunt and comes back with an animal or doesn't come back, survival advantage. Now you take that brain and you sit it down in a traditional setting, like for a kid, a classroom where they have to focus for 8 hours and a lot of it
Mhm.
not interested in. It's a mismatch between wiring and environment.
Mhm.
And what I tell people is as soon as you can figure out that mismatch, right? Which could mean selecting an environment where your ADHD is an asset to you as opposed to, something that holds you back. For
Mhm.
example, my job, ADHD serves me well because I'm meeting new people every day
Sure.
to think creatively. If I were
Yeah.
doing something like accounting, like I don't think I would thrive.
Right.
Um
Right. Right.
and then the other piece is we can't always control our environment, like going back to the example of the kid in school. So then it becomes, all right, how do I figure out what my superpowers are with
Mhm.
respect to how I'm wired? And then for the challenges, how do I develop strategies or, engage in treatment that helps me milk what I can out of my environment until I
Right.
do one day have the ability to choose what my
Right.
environment. Um, so so I definitely don't see it as a disorder, but rather a unique way, a beautiful way of being wired. The
Mhm.
strengths are hyper focus. A lot of people think ADHD is a disorder of focus, and that's not exactly it. It's
Mhm.
challenge of modulating our focus.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
ADHDers can hyperfocus better than anyone in the world
Oh, yes, we can.
when they're into it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And for a parent, that it can be very confusing because it's like, wow, little Billy is playing a video game for 4 hours, and I'm calling his name 16 times, and he doesn't even hear me.
yeah,
And yet when we're doing math, 2 minutes is like 2 hours,
yeah, yeah,
what's the deal? He's choosing to focus on only some things. No, right? That's a myth. But hyper
right.
focus is a superpower. Creativity, outside of the box thinking.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, people with ADHD are super perceptive because they're taking in
Yes,
so much information.
absolutely, yep. Mhm.
And then the foot we run late. Sometimes it's hard for us to focus on stuff that we aren't
Yeah,
as interested in, and
yeah,
times it can be hard to regulate our moods. And yes, there
yeah,
is stuff, right, that we have to work on,
yeah,
but
yeah,
there's also a
yeah.
lot of great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's funny that you're explaining all this, and it's all as an adult that's now somebody that has gone a couple years with this diagnosis and is understanding, the what and the why. Uh, I told you before, like I look back at it and I'm like, man, this explains my entire life. A lot of the things that I struggled with as a kid, as a teenager, all throughout college, and even as a young adult in my 20s. Like there were things that I struggled with that I was just like, "Oh, I'm not working hard enough," or
What
"I
were
can't I'm
what were
not,"
some of those
like,
things? What are some of those?
tons of stuff. Because I like, for example, so, um, I played sports, right? And so there were times that, I could not get myself going to practice.
Mhm.
Not like practice as in, like, going to, like, practice with a team, but I mean, like, they would encourage you to practice on your own, like, especially for basketball, like, practice on your own, and I would want to.
Yep,
I had a court in my driveway. I would want to. The basketball's right there. All I have to do is get up
yep,
and go outside and just dribble, do some drills, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to do it because I wanted to get better. I wanted to do all these things. I was, like, so excited to do it. I could not press the button
yep,
to get going. And I was beating myself up. And so were my coaches, so were my parents, because I'm like, man, I'm just not working hard enough. But I don't understand
yeah.
why I can't just get my ass up out of this seat, go
Mhm.
outside and practice. I wanted to. I just
Yeah.
couldn't do it. And like at the time, again, I thought that I was just like, oh, I'm lazy. I'm not working hard enough. Come to find out, like there's things happening up here that nobody clocked.
Oh,
And I'm
totally.
like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
So, like, little things like that I would notice, and, like, it made so much sense. It's like a light bulb that went off in my head, and I know there's a lot of adults that have had that light bulb kinda moment when they see ADHD through, a different lens. Do you find that often? Like, when you're talking with other adults that were especially diagnosed late in life, that they have, like, those types of light bulb moments?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
And the myths that circulate about
Oh,
ADHD,
tons.
right? Like a person with ADHD isn't trying hard enough, or
Right.
they're lazy, quote unquote. I didn't get diagnosed until later in life, and I recall being an undergrad at Berkeley and being very, very motivated to get good grades, and got good grades, but
Mhm.
it took 2 to 300% effort.
Yeah.
I I would be in the library, I would be doing the all-nighters, I would be, probably not managing my time as well as I should have, but the amount of effort was very high.
Mhm.
And even when it doesn't appear that a person with ADHD is trying hard, they truly are. I'll give you an
Mhm.
example. When we do brain scans, we do 2 scans actually. One where a person is trying to do a concentration task,
Mhm.
the other when they're relaxing. What happens in the ADHD brain is that the prefrontal cortex, right, the very front of the brain, the part of the brain that helps us focus, the part of the brain that runs on dopamine.
Mhm.
When a person with ADHD goes to try to concentrate, blood flow and activity there drop. It
Mhm.
doesn't keep up with the demand that's being placed on the prefrontal cortex. So if you have a non ADHD brain and they go to concentrate, okay, demand has gone up, but their blood flow supply keeps up. And
Mhm.
then you've got an intact prefrontal cortex. With ADHD, demand goes up, blood flow supply doesn't keep up. And on a SPECT scan, you can see what often appears as holes on the scan, not literal holes, but areas where the
Yeah.
blood flow is diminished, right?
Right.
And so that is not for lack of effort, right? That's wiring. That's wiring.
Right.
And so for many people who have not been diagnosed with ADHD as a child and they're now being diagnosed as an adult, I've seen them get misdiagnosed with all
Mhm.
sorts of things. Bipolar disorder, seen that one a bunch, right? Oh, this person
Yeah.
has mood swings. Turns out they don't have true bipolar disorder. The mood shifts are related to their underlying ADHD.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, this person has depression and anxiety. Well, yes, because the average person with ADHD, by the time they're 12, they've gotten 20,000 pieces of negative feedback
Mhm.
compared to someone without ADHD. And that stuff gets internalized, especially if you don't have an understanding of why these things are happening. So
Mhm.
then what you tell yourself is, oh gosh, like I guess I'm just not, I'm not good enough, right? Like
Yep.
like my intellect or my effort just doesn't match up with results and I feel shitty about myself, right?
Yep. Oh,
and
yeah.
and self-esteem drops and sure enter depression. I mean, what you were talking about, I felt for you with talking about basketball and wanting to get out there and you want to do it. You're motivated to do it, but you just feel like you can't, right? Like that paralysis that kicks in. I call
Mhm.
that the task activation problem in
Mhm.
ADHD. And a lot of times in the ADHD brain, starting the thing, whatever the thing is so much harder than doing the thing.
So much harder. So, say it louder for the people in the back because, it is so hard
Yeah.
sometimes to even I'll give people at home an example, right? So to what you're explaining, right? So let's just imagine the time that you're sitting on your couch and you have dishes in the sink.
Mm,
You want to clean the dishes. You know you have to clean the dishes. And you actually don't mind cleaning the dishes. Like, yo, you're like, oh, I need to clean the dishes. You're sitting on your couch. All you have to do is get up,
mhm,
go to the sink, and do the dishes. Now, to anybody else, I guess, that may seem like a very simple task. Just
mhm,
get up and go do it. But for a lot of us ADHDers, that the task of just starting that, getting going, is one of the most exhausting things that you could go through
mhm.
ever. It's so hard.
And that is why one of my favorite, quote unquote ADHD hacks is something I use every single day, and I call it the 5 minute rule. And the idea in this is you take whatever task it is that you're avoiding, like maybe it's washing dishes, and you trick your brain. You tell your brain, I'm going to set a timer right now for 5 minutes, brain. And when the timer goes off, good news. You can walk away, right? Like no worries, no judgment. It's all good, right? Thank you for doing the 5 minutes. Um It's 5 more minutes than you would have done. I also know you could do 5 minutes because you can do 5 minutes of most anything, right? But what ends up happening is once you're 5 minutes in and the timer goes off, you've already overcome the task initiation problem and you're in a
Mhm.
flow, right? And you're doing it and you're going to go, okay, well, I'll just keep going with this.
Mhm.
I'll use the 5 minute rule. I don't know, 5 to 10 times a day, right? Whether it's oh my gosh, look at my inbox. I've got, 62 emails that I have to get back to, or wow, there's 20 refill requests, or the dishes in the sink, or folding the laundry, or all the stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and and it keeps me going. But
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah, I
little
might
hard
try
and
that.
people can try. Try it,
I might try that. I might try that because it's little things like that that end up like, what does it work for everybody? No, but it might work for some people.
Yep.
And it's like little things that you just try
Yep.
and you never know, it might work. Like one of the things that I do when I get home, I'll purposely keep my shoes on and I won't get changed.
Uh-huh.
I won't get changed into something more comfortable.
Yeah.
And like just that in and of itself keeps me going, like, when I get home,
Yeah.
like, if I have to, like,
Keeps
do
you
laundry or if I
in
have to, like
work mode or
yeah, like, I just don't get more comfortable. I stay in my I wear business casual, to my
mhm.
office every day. So, like, I stay in that, am I super comfortable? Not really, not as comfortable as I can be, but, like, I'll stay in that mode so I can just keep going, and I discovered that by accident.
Yeah.
I was just like, I notice
Well,
every time that I don't
sure.
change, I'm more productive.
Yep, I like that one. Another one I like is gamifying the heck out of stuff. Okay?
Yes.
If you can
Yes.
turn it into a game, even if it's a silly game, but you're giving yourself little dopamine hits along the way, you will be more likely to start and complete the task. And
Mhm.
one example I tell a lot of my patients is when I have to call in certain refills on medications, I have to click this little thing right here to generate
Mhm.
a numeric code, and that
Yeah.
code expires after about 30 seconds. So, what I'll do is I'll click it first, and then I have to go in and update all the information about the prescription, make sure everything's accurate, sign it off, and send before that number expires. And if I do it, I feel like I won. Do I
Mhm.
get a real prize? No, but it's a little dopamine hit, and then
Yeah.
I can keep going through it as opposed to getting bogged down and
Yeah.
distracted and, etcetera.
Yeah, absolutely. You had mentioned this earlier, and I definitely want to hit on this because I think this is great. So obviously, ADHD is not one size fits all, right? There's
Correct.
not like one type of ADHD, and it's like because like I find that like when I'm scrolling through social a lot, there's a lot of like just misconceptions about what ADHD is, and
Yep.
like sometimes I'll talk about my ADHD experience, and somebody will be like, "Well, I don't experience that, and I have ADHD." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, well." Let's not invalidate here. Let's talk about. Let's have a conversation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's obviously not one size fits all.
No,
So
it is
can
not.
can you explain the different types of
Mhm.
ADHD that you see, and more importantly, why that matters for treatment?
Oh my gosh. You're on a roll with good questions. So, in our brain imaging work, we have described, believe it or not, 7 subtypes of
Yeah.
ADHD, and I can go through them real quick. But
Yes, please.
the first would be, classic ADHD. So you could think of that as the combined type, right? Someone who has inattention, someone who also might have hyperactive impulsive tendencies. And the classic finding on brain imaging is reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex. Okay, so here's a brain model,
Mm-hmm.
reduced activity in that prefrontal cortex. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the next type would be inattentive. Inattentive can also show up with the same thing, reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, but now you're talking about a person who's more daydreaming, loses their train of thought. They avoid things that require sustained mental effort. Organization can be a hard thing.
Stop
That,
attacking me, Steven. Stop. Like, stop attacking me. Okay, I get it. I get it. Okay.
that's the rejection sensitive dysphoria talking
Yes.
right now. Okay. And we can get into that too if you want. Um, but that's the type
Yeah.
that gets missed because it's not the classic little boy in the classroom who's making a lot of noise and the teacher's like you need to get assessed.
Yeah.
It's instead the person who's internalized and not creating a problem but also not thriving,
Right.
and then often ends up getting diagnosed as an adult, not as a kid. um Other types: anxious ADHD. So
Mm.
in this type, you will see a part of the brain very deep inside the brain known as the basal ganglia light up. Okay, the basal ganglia are the fight or flight centers of our brain.
Mhm.
And so when they heat up, it's a person who can feel very tense, very restless, anxious, nervous, panicky, and that gets in the way of their ability to focus. Why is that important to differentiate? If you put that person on a high dose of a stimulant, it might not go great, right? Like,
Mm,
yes, they might be able to focus better, but that stimulant, while boosting activity to the front, can be like lighter fluid for those basal ganglia. And
mm,
now this is a person who's like, well, oh gosh, Adderall works for all my friends. And yet for me, I can't take it, right? Like I feel awful on it. That I see that all the time. Another type of ADHD we see is called overfocused
okay.
ADHD. And in this one, there's a part of the brain towards the front. If you take the brain and split it in half, we're talking about this region here.
Yeah.
It's known as the anterior cingulate gyrus. And it's like the brain's gear shifter, right? So if your gear shifter gets stuck, right? If that part of the brain gets really active and your gear shifter gets stuck, what does that look like? Hyperfocus, ruminating, obsessing, having a hard time letting something go. It can look like
Mm,
oppositionality, right? Think of like hamster running on a wheel
mhm,
inside the brain. And because of that, the person has a hard time managing their attention.
mhm.
And that type of finding tends to respond really well to things that increase serotonin level. Serotonin calms that part of the brain. Okay, we're up to what, 4 now.
Yeah, it was
Um,
4. I hope, everybody at home, I hope you're taking notes because there's a quiz. There's a quiz at the end of this,
there
so
is gonna be a quiz, make sure to panic. The next type would be temporal lobe ADHD. So the temporal lobes are on the sides, they're right by the
Mhm,
temples, and they're really important for mood regulation. So
mhm,
this is often seen in kids, but it's typically a person who is having really difficult challenges with behavioral regulation. It can look like aggression, it can look like more substantial mood swings. Then another type we see is called ring of fire
okay,
ADHD, which is it sounds very dramatic because the scans look dramatic. This is also often in younger kids, and we do two scans. We do two views on a scan. One is where you're looking at blood flow to the outside.
right,
The other is when you're looking at blood flow to the inside. And for ring of fire, the inside scan looks like a firestorm, essentially, right? So we rate it by color, and blue
mhm,
signifies calm, red is like medium, white is really active. For Ring of Fire, everything's white, right? And this is, you can conceptualize this as if the prefrontal cortex is trying to focus in Ring of Fire ADHD, it's like it's trying to focus next to a freeway during rush hour and
okay,
big rigs are honking
yeah,
and, fireworks are going off. And similar to anxious ADHD, Ring of Fire ADHD does not tend to respond as well to stimulants for the same reason, right? If you add a stimulant to the mix and you've already got this firestorm, tends to be a person who's going to be more sensitive. It doesn't mean that it won't work. It means you have to be really cautious. And then
right,
the last
right,
one we call limbic ADHD. And this is where a part of the brain called the thalamus, very deep inside the brain, lights up. And the thalamus, when it's active, puts us at increased risk for depression. So this is
mm,
a person who is more depressive and dealing with ADHD symptoms. Turns out that when our brain is depressed, it sends less blood to the prefrontal cortex. Makes sense, right? Most of us, if we go through a period of depression, we have a harder time focusing. So those
mhm.
are the 7 types, and the complexity of it all is oftentimes people are a combination of types, right?
That was gonna be my next question. Yeah, I was like, I'm like, okay, is it like in a boom, 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 or is it possible for there to be interconnectivity there?
There it is very possible. I would say, often I'll see people that are purely one type, but more often it's a combination of types. And that's where the beauty of tailoring a plan comes in because it, most ADHD medications are prescribed by primary care doctors, not
Mhm,
psychiatrists. And primary care visits, let's all face it, right? They're like 5 to 10 minutes long. And
Yep.
so usually people are going to walk out of there with a stimulant, and that'll work for many types of ADHD,
Yeah.
but it is not ideal for all types. And it's also not the only thing that can help a person with ADHD.
Mhm.
Yet, I mean, yes, medicines can be very helpful, but it's not the only thing, right?
Mhm.
And so this is why it's so important to really do an in-depth assessment, because you can get a plan that's more tailored to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's fascinating hearing you say this because, like, if I'm not mistaken, you have done over 300,000 brain scans. Is that true?
It's right around Amen Clinics is right around 300,000 brain scans right now with
Which is incredible,
yeah.
right? That's incredible. So, like, all of that information that you get to see from the human brain all the time, what has that just in general taught you? What have you learned from seeing all of this?
Oh, man. Few things. So, one is that the human brain is nothing short of a miracle. Like
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, the connections in the brain exceed the numbers of stars in the universe, and you can say that easily, but if you really think about what that number is, the sun is one of 100 billion stars in the Milky Way, which is one of 100 billion galaxies in the known universe. The number is literally astronomical. The other thing that I've grown to really appreciate and respect is that no two brains I have ever seen are the same, right?
Mm,
Brains are fingerprints, literally. And they have, I mean, with that level of connection, like statistically, like there's no way that two brains are going to be the same,
sure.
which is really um humbling and also encouraging, and I think freeing to know, because
Yeah.
there isn't a way to be wired, because none of us are wired exactly the same way.
Right.
So that's been a big takeaway. And then the other is that brains are not stuck. We often do repeat scans on people, maybe
Mhm.
6 months later, a year later into a treatment
Yeah.
plan, and you see changes, right? You see changes. So we tell people all the time, you're not stuck with the brain you have. Let's figure out what your baseline looks like.
Right.
What are the superpowers? What are the vulnerabilities? And let's go, right?
Right.
You can see real meaningful change. And I think the last thing, you probably asked for one, but there's just been
No,
so
it's
many
fine.
things
No, please.
that
Let him cook. Let him cook.
all right, here we go. The last thing is, people always want to know, do I feel the way I feel because of my biology, right? Like,
Mm,
is it chemistry? Is it a chemical change in the brain?
right.
Is it my environment, right? Is it like the stuff I'm up against right now? Is it my psychology, right? And my answer now is yes. It's all
Yeah.
the same thing. And
Right.
that it's a bold statement, but I stand by it, because what we go through environmentally literally shapes how blood flows through our brain. I mean, an example of that, emotional trauma. There are
Mhm.
signatures that you can see on a SPECT scan for a person who has been through past emotional trauma, very unique signatures. That is a biological change, right? Blood flow has changed in that person's brain. And then, depending on the regions that have changed, that affects someone's psychology and
Mhm.
how they act, which then feeds back on how they interact with their environment, back on their brain. It's all interconnected. So
Yeah.
it's a false duality of like, okay, am I for example depressed because something happened or something shifted in my brain? Like
Yeah.
it it's it's all connected.
How do your patients react sometimes? Like when you explain to them what you're seeing, and you're explaining to them what might be happening. How do they react when they see their brain? Because, like, how often can somebody say, like, "That's my brain?" You know? Like, what do people
Yeah.
react like?
It's my favorite part. of the
Yeah.
evaluation is when we finally build up and finally get to see what the scan looks like because I've seen all sorts of reactions. Oftentimes it's tears, right? Tears of not sadness, but of feeling like, "Oh my gosh, I'm finally, like, understanding
Tears
where
of
things are
clarity.
coming from," right? Like a
Yeah.
validation. A lot of times
Yeah.
people will tell me, "My biggest fear coming into this was that you would tell me there was nothing," right? And
Oh, wow.
and when a person and, that's propagated by society, right? Like, quote, unquote,
Yes.
"It's
Yes.
all in your head." Well,
Yes.
it is, your brain's in your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
People think like, "Oh, you're gonna do this scan and there's gonna be nothing that shows up, and, what people have been telling me my whole life is true." And when they see, like, there is an organic reason for why you feel the way you feel and think the way you think, it comes with a sense of validation, peace. I see tears. I see one time a guy was in my office and he randomly started doing push-ups because he was just, like, overwhelmed with energy and he needed to get it out that way, and that was
Yeah.
fine. Um, yeah, I think the goal of therapy, right, is to build insight, right? For us to
Yes.
gain a deeper understanding of ourselves so that we have more control. And when you think about one of these scans, it's kind of accelerated therapy, right? Like
Yeah.
you see where it's coming from, that's insight. And then now
Yeah.
you do something with it.
Yeah. I know that there's gonna be a lot of people listening that are like, "Dr. Storage, this all sounds great, but it also sounds very expensive."
Right.
Right? Like, I think some critics of brain scans would say that it's expensive and not always necessary, right? How do you respond when you hear stuff like that?
I tell my patients when they come in, I this is such a big investment, right? It is.
Yeah.
It is expensive to
Mentally, financially, physically, yeah. Yeah.
all of the above, right?
Mhm.
And it's very important that people get good returns on their investments, and not everyone is going to be able to be in a place where they're able to manage the whole evaluation and the cost around that. Um, and if a person isn't, I would encourage them to make sure that whoever is evaluating them is at least giving them the time that they deserve,
Mhm.
asking the right questions, viewing them as a whole person, making recommendations that aren't just a medicine. And
Mhm.
you can find that, and maybe you don't have a scan done, but at least you feel more heard and understood. And some patients we see at Amen clinics don't do a scan, right?
Right.
We do other evaluations where basically it's everything but the scan,
Right.
because I'm it's true, right? Not everyone can afford it. And I also think we invest a lot of money in a lot of areas of our life that probably relative to our brain, um, are not as critical and not as
Mhm.
vital. And I'm not pretending to know anything about anyone's financial situation, but
Mhm.
I also tell people this is one of the most important investments you'll make because you only get one.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you think and I know a lot of times, like, especially when I post things on social media about ADHD, there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh my god, ADHD, everybody has ADHD now. It's just a trend." And I know you were saying that I think you said 1 in 8,
Yep.
1 in 8 people, have ADHD. There's a lot of people out there that think that ADHD is overdiagnosed,
Mm.
right? And that it's a trend, that it's a fad. It's like, oh, well, I have ADHD too. Haha, right? From your vantage point, is ADHD overdiagnosed, or are we just finally recognizing what we've been missing for decades, let alone centuries?
Or can it be both? Right.
Yeah.
I think we are much more aware and better able to recognize ADHD and not misdiagnose it as something else. I also think the prevalence of ADHD is rising, not because of overdiagnosis or recognition, improved recognition, but also technological advancement and the fact that technology is evolving way faster than our brains are. And when you think about things like social media, I'm not anti social media. I'm on it. You're on it. It's a
Mhm.
tool, but it's a tool that can also be detrimental. And
Yes.
you've probably looked at analytics of things you post. The average reel that I post on Instagram is a minute long. The average watch time is 7 seconds.
Mhm.
So we have become a society, and this it starts earlier and earlier, where our brains are looking for very quick dopamine hits,
Yes.
and it's harder to sit through a movie, right?
Mhm.
And that's not overdiagnosis. That's our brains struggling to keep up with how fast technology is evolving. And and then could there be a component of overdiagnosis? Yes, especially if we're talking about self-diagnosis, because a lot of the
Mhm.
content out there that people
Yeah.
are relying on may or may not be accurate. And
Yep.
that's why it becomes so important to do a thorough evaluation if you can.
Amen.
Clips.
Not well, pun I guess pun intended, but like, but I cannot stress that enough because sometimes people will comment, like they'll watch my videos and they'll be like, "Oh, maybe I have ADHD,"
Mhm.
and and I appreciate and I love the conversation that started,
Yeah.
right? And the queries and the curiosity. But I always tell people, go talk if you can to a mental health professional or somebody that knows what they're talking about that has like this 30,000-foot view and some
Mhm.
insight and some knowledge and education because it yeah, you may experience some things that are similar to ADHD, but it's not a guarantee that that it's even ADHD at all.
Correct.
You know, so it's really important to get to speak with somebody because if you end up treating yourself or getting treated for something and not getting treated for the thing that you are probably supposed to be treated for,
Mhm.
you're probably going to still run into the same problems or make those other problems worse, I would imagine.
Yes. Um, Inattention is a symptom, and that symptom can come from a lot of different things, whether it's ADHD, head injury, depression, anxiety,
Mhm.
cognitive decline, right? Trauma, past emotional trauma. There
Yeah.
are lots of things that can converge on the symptom of inattention. So if it's the first step is curiosity, right? Like, oh
Mhm.
wow, I heard this thing. I wonder if that could be me. Great. Like, I think we all should be introspective
Mhm.
and willing to explore ourselves, but don't let it stop there, right?
Yes.
Like gi- give yourself what you deserve, which is
Mhm.
a good assessment.
If you don't mind, can you just talk to the parents real quick? Because I know that a lot of my audience are parents, and parents often will comment or ask me, how do I support my ADHD kid without making them feel broken? Like, what do you say to parents of ADHD kids?
I tell parents and I tell the kid, this is not about fixing you, right? This is
Mm,
not about changing who you are. As I mentioned earlier, no two brains are the same, right? This is about learning your fingerprint and figuring out what your superpowers are because you have them, right? Everyone
mm-hmm,
has something, knowing how to lean into those, and then figuring out the areas that things could be optimized. I'm in the business of taking awesome people and making them feel more awesome. And I teach them about truly what ADHD is, the language to use with their kids, and um, I think that's where you start, right?
mm-hmm,
That, like I said earlier, I wouldn't even call it a disorder. And when you're talking about it with your kids, you don't have to use that label, right? You don't have to say
Mhm.
ADHD. It could be something like we're learning how to regulate your focus, or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, and I very much appreciate your insight and your knowledge here because, like I always say to people, like I am not a mental health professional, nor do I pretend to play to be one, nor do I play one on TV. Like I'm just not. I'm not, but I enjoy very much talking to people like you because you get to number one have these conversations with people every day. You get to experience these things and you have the education behind it. So I'm always happy to be like, please come on to my platform and talk to me because I always try to approach it with this curiosity because I am curious. I'm like, okay, what's going on up here? What's happening? And I definitely I want to have you back one day because I definitely want to even talk about like the lifestyle types of changes that I think people can and should make, and including how they're eating, how they're sleeping, exercise, all of that stuff
So
with which
big.
is just as important if not more important, especially because like to your point, it doesn't always have to be about the medicine
Yep.
itself, like there's other things that you should probably take into consideration. So I would love to have you back on to
I
chat
would
about
love
that one
to.
day.
I would love to.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe one day, you come in, we'll get you
yeah,
scanned.
yeah, man. You're in LA?
Yeah, yeah. The
Hmm.
location I'm at is Encino in LA.
Hmm.
Amen Clinics has 11 locations throughout the country,
Yeah.
but I work out of the Encino one in LA.
Got it. Got it. I always said that I'm West Coast by heart because my family lives in Phoenix. My best friend lives in Ontario,
We've
Canada.
got more of this identity
Yeah,
crisis going on. The
I
Cowboys
know,
fan
man.
wearing the
I
Atlanta hat
listen.
in Philly, West
I
Coast
know.
at
I'm jet
heart.
setting, man. Listen, I'm living my best life. Single. Listen, single, no kids, two cats, bro. Like I'm just living my best life. I'm just
I,
traveling. I'm
I,
going to
I think I
Barcelona in a
saw the
couple months.
cats. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
man.
think I saw the cats
I'm just
earlier.
traveling. I'm living my best life, man. That's all I can do, bro. That's
Hey,
all I can do. Um,
sounds amazing.
like, dude, I really appreciate it. And just one last question for you. What's one thing I asked this to everybody, but what's one thing that you want the people watching or listening to take away from our conversation today?
That ADHD is a brain-based condition. It is real, and there are awesome things that come with it, and there are real, tangible strategies to work through the areas that are tougher. And maybe we talk about those strategies next time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, honestly, for sitting and chatting with me, Dr. Storage, for sharing your time, your wisdom, your heart with us. Honestly, I know that there's going to be so many people listening and watching today that will hopefully walk away with this new perspective on ADHD and the brain, because it's fascinating. And I always I found it really humorous that you were saying that that there's more, would you say, like points in
Connection.
our brain, connections in our brain than there are like stars in the universe, which is funny because a lot of times people will say our brain cannot even understand how big the universe is.
Right.
Meanwhile, there's more going on up here than out there, which is fascinating,
It's
it's,
incredible. I mean,
it's fascinating.
I'm biased, obviously, but I think it's the
Mhm.
most incredible organ in the body.
I mean, I would say it's up there. It's
I,
definitely up there.
I mean, literally, right?
It's, it,
Yeah.
it, It's I sometimes I don't even try to be punny, and it just happens. This just happens. That was a
You've
softball.
had
You
a
knocked it out
couple.
of the
Yeah,
park.
you've had a couple today. This is really good.
I
This is
know.
good.
Listen. I'll take it. That was a softball. I didn't Clayton
Don't get me
Kershaw you
started
and
on
just like
dad jokes. Yeah, yeah.
that'll be another
Yeah,
episode.
people are gonna log off really, really quick if you get me started on dad jokes. So
Oh my God, I love it. Wow, I feel like I need to sit in silence for a minute just to process everything we just talked about. A massive thank you to Dr. Steven Storage for coming in and breaking down the science in a way that actually made sense. My biggest takeaway from this episode, it has to be the analogy of the computer hardware versus the software. It's just so validating to hear a doctor say that you could do all the therapy, the software work, you could do all of that you want, but the actual organ itself, the hardware, If that's not healthy, you're going to struggle. It really changes how I look at things like sleep and nutrition, and yes, even my beloved Jameson whiskey. Oh, I want some Jameson whiskey. But because hearing him talk about the toxicity of alcohol in the brain, I mean, that's a real eye opener. I also loved the part about ants, ANTS, the automatic negative thoughts. We all have them, but learning to challenge them is such a key part of this journey. If you want to connect with Dr. Stephen Storage, or if you want to learn more about getting a SPECT scan at the Amen clinics, all of the links are right here in the show notes. Go show them some love. Go check it out. I think you'll like it. And friends, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Leave a review if you can, and come hang out with me on social media at The Vibe with Kai, or visit my official website at thevibewithkai.com. Don't forget, if you need more support, grab one of my ADHD guidebooks in the digital store, or join my Patreon for that exclusive deep dive content that I don't post anywhere else. We keep it just for our little inner circle. Once again, thank you so much for watching and for listening. As always, my friends, much love, good vibes. I'll catch you later. Bye.